Preparing for the holidays, many of us are wondering, will we get any snow this year? Could we have a white Christmas?
That would be a miracle, wouldn't? Chief Meteorologist George Flickinger takes into the winter weather's past and shares what we could see in this year.
Howdy everyone, and welcome to my winter weather outlook. We are going to go ahead and make it snow here in the television studio because it's been a long time since we've seen snow. In fact, this might actually be the most snow that you've seen in years. In this year's winter weather outlook, we're going to do three things. We'll look back to last year's winter weather forecast, what was right and wrong. We'll also show you the snow trends, why we're getting less snow than we used to. The answer might not be actually what you think it is as far as why we're not seeing as much wintry weather. And number three, we'll look ahead to the forecast for this upcoming winter. But first, let's look back at last winter. Last year, we experienced an El Nino type winter. And as expected, we were wet. During an El Nino winter, precipitation can be intense. As we forecast, our yards were wetter than normal. Parts of central Virginia and South Side received more than 40% more rain than normal. Impressive rainfall amounts for December, January, and into February. Temperatures also averaged 3 degrees warmer than normal overall. This part of last year's forecast was correct. So going into last winter, I was optimistic about snow. This was largely based on our history with this weather pattern. As you can see in our history, we have seen some big snowfall totals over the years, but last year it simply didn't work out. We did have the cold air in place from time to time. You may recall Lynchburg in January dropped to 9, 13 degrees in Roanoke and Danville. However, this cold air and moisture did not combine to be in place at the same time. So this means that if you're a snow lover, we had more disappointing snow totals for last year's snow season. If you or your family have lived here for generations, then gosh, you probably remember scenes like this, back when we actually used to get snow. I took a look back over the last 50 years at our snowfall history. I'll show you Roanoke and Central Virginia. As far as Roanoke, going back to the 70s and 80s, the average was 22 inches of snow per year. But in recent years, it's dipped to only 11 inches. So these days, in recent years, we are seeing about half as much snow as we used to. So instead of snow piles that look like this, they are much smaller. I also want to show you Lynchburg in Central Virginia. Lynchburg typically gets less snow than Roanoke anyway, but you can see the trends are still the same. Nearly 20 inches of snow on average 50 years ago, and now it's difficult to even reach the double digits. The decline in snow continues. So, okay, what's going on? Why are we seeing less snow? Now, we certainly know that if we have green grass and we're out doing yard work, that it's going to be too warm for snow. The precipitation that's falling is falling as rain. That part we know. But the answer is actually more complicated than that as far as why we're getting less snow than we used to. You can actually look into the Atlantic Ocean for the reason. Some of the newest research that I was analyzing is showing that the Atlantic Ocean is now running 4 degrees warmer in the Gulf Stream than just 20 years ago. That is a huge warm up out in the ocean. But then you might also wonder, why does that matter? Because after all, when we have snow, it's due to cold air coming up from the north and storms coming up from the south, right? Cold air spills in from Canada, and when we typically do get a big snowstorm, it's a low-pressure swirl coming right up the coast. The reason that it matters, this warmer water out in the Atlantic, that's because this low-pressure area, when it's coming up from the south, it is going to pull up this warm water up into the top of the storm. So this means that instead of snow, this snow is now being melted over our heads as this warmer air, warmer water gets pulled up and over Virginia. Let's look ahead to this upcoming winter. Aside from Hurricane Helene's heavy rain and a few days of some good rain during mid-November, we've been dry this fall, which is emblematic of La Nina. If you like snow, this is not good news. Now, keep in mind, it's always possible to have a rogue snowstorm drop a lot of snow, but I'm not that optimistic about that happening for this upcoming winter. History does not favor that to occur this year. Overall, I'm expecting us to run drier than normal, but not as dry as the summertime. So that is a bit of good news. From time to time, we're going to turn very cold with occasional strong cold blasts, just like we do in every winter. But as far as the snow, if you're a snow lover, I do expect this upcoming winter to be another disappointment with below normal snow totals. This map that I put together, this is my forecast of how much snow I'm expecting for the entire season. The Lynchburg area, also including Bedford, Smith Mountain Lake, and parts of Southside, 2 to 7 inch totals. Amounts are lower east toward Farmville, Charlotte County, South Boston, and Danville. The mountains of Bedford, Amherst, and Nelson, and around Roanoke and Blacksburg, 5 to 10 inches. So yes, I do expect us to see some snow this season, but overall, it's going to be less than 30, 40, and 50 years ago.
Snow lovers aren't going to like this.
But I was dreaming of a white Christmas. No?
It's not happening.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that for this year, but I tell you what, and you were kind of chuckling about this when I said one rogue storm, because sometimes you do end up with one storm that is not forecast in the long term. So we'll see if that happens, but right now I'm not optimistic about big snow this year.
You heard it here.